team of researchers from Ohio State University, using data from satellites owned by NASA and the German Aerospace Center, managed to identify what they believed to be an ancient 480-kilometer-wide meteorite impact crater that was buried beneath the ice sheet. But because of the area's extremely remote location and distance beneath several kilometers worth of solid ice, there still to date have never been any direct samples taken from the area to actually test for this impact event hypothesis. And so, the idea that an asteroid could have impacted this area and caused a massive crater in Antarctica is still only a theory for now, but a highly likely theory nonetheless. If the gravity anomaly here turns out to indeed be a meteorite impact crater, it would be by far the largest one ever discovered in the world, with a width that's nearly 3 times as large as the Chicxulub impact crater in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, that is believed to have been formed by a 10-kilometer-wide asteroid that struck the area roughly 66 million years ago, and likely contributed to the annihilation of the dinosaurs. In order to create an impact crater nearly 3 times larger than that one in Antarctica, the asteroid that might have hit the area would have had to have been 4 to 5 times larger than the dinosaur killer asteroid was, so roughly 40 to 50 kilometers wide. An asteroid that would have been big enough to stretch from Central Park in New York City all the way into Connecticut. Now, because of effects like erosion, impact craters on the Earth's surface gradually disappear over time. Because of this phenomenon, the Ohio State University researchers who concluded that the structure hidden beneath the Antarctic ice sheet was an impact crater believe that it happened no more than 500 million years ago, and no less than 100 million years ago, because the structure seems to also have been geographically disturbed by the Rift Valley in the area that only formed around 100 million years ago during the separation of Antarctica and Australia from the ancient Gondwana supercontinent. And that timeline between 100 and 500 million years ago is extremely interesting, because it potentially lines up more or less with the greatest mass extinction event that ever happened in our planet's history. The Permian-Triassic extinction event that took place sometime around 251.9 million years ago. An apocalyptically traumatizing event that is also often referred to as the Great Dying. Something happened on our planet all that time ago that quickly annihilated 57% of all biological families that existed at the time, including a wipeout of 81% of the Earth's marine species and 70% of the Earth's land-based vertebrate species. It is by far the biggest mass extinction event that ever took place on the planet, and we still don't have a precise explanation of what exactly happened that caused it. But it could just be that the deep and mysterious Antarctic ice sheet has been hiding the cause of the Great Dying from us this entire time. If indeed it turns out that the East Antarctic gravity anomaly is truly the biggest impact crater that we have ever discovered. And it's been even further hypothesized that if it really was an impact event that caused it, it could have been so massive and destructive that it directly contributed to the breakup of the Gondwana supercontinent by severely weakening the crust at the location of impact, which eventually led to the separation of that ancient continent between Antarctica, Australia, and India. Also hidden beneath the surface of the vast Antarctic ice sheet are around 675 liquid subglacial lakes that researchers have only started discovering since the 1990s, a little more than only 3 decades ago. Several of these liquid lakes have been discovered deeper than 3 kilometers beneath the surface of the Antarctic ice sheet, and by far the largest of them discovered to date is the infamously mysterious Lake Vostok, which was only discovered by a team of Russian researchers in the east of the continent in the early 1990s, and its discovery wasn't announced to the general public until it was published in the scientific journal Nature in 1996. It turns out that Lake Vostok is a massive body of liquid water that exists about 4 kilometers deep beneath the surface of the Antarctic ice sheet. And by the volume of water contained within the lake, Lake Vostok is surprisingly the 6th largest known lake in the world, containing an amount of water within it that is even greater than that of Lake Michigan in the United States. And we didn't even know about it at all until the same year that Tiger Woods made his professional debut at the PGA Tour. Interestingly, the liquid water contained within Lake Vostok is below freezing temperature, maintaining an average of about -3 degrees Celsius or about 27 Fahrenheit. This is possible because it's believed that there's a geothermal vent beneath the lake's floor that's providing it with some heat, while the pressure from the 4 kilometers of thick ice above the lake reduces the ice's melting point and provides the lake's water with insulation from the abominably cold temperatures above it. And while -3 degrees Celsius temperature water is too cold for most marine life we know of to survive, it's still warm enough for many other species we know of that have adapted to extremely cold environments to thrive in. Antarctic krill, icefish, Arctic cod, and certain species of sea stars, sea urchins, and mollusks that we already know of are capable of surviving in extremely cold, sub-zero waters. So what mysterious life forms that we're presently unaware of could be existing down below in the depths of Lake Vostok, and the hundreds of other lakes dotted across Antarctica hidden beneath the ice sheet? Lake Vostok is a particularly interesting case because it's believed to have been completely sealed off from the rest of the outside world by the Antarctic ice sheet for at least the past 15 million years. Meaning that if life exists within the lake, it has evolved in complete separation from everywhere else in the world for millions of years now. In 2012, a team of Russian researchers successfully carried out the first ever drilling from the surface of the Antarctic ice sheet, all the way down nearly 4 kilometers deep to the liquid surface of Lake Vostok, where samples of the water were taken and carried back to the surface. However, this initial drilling sample taken from the lake by the Russians has been widely criticized for not being properly sanitized, and as a result, the data they took is known to be heavily contaminated. Subsequent analysis of the lake's water sample has revealed kerosene contamination and outside bacteria contaminants that were present on the drill bit before it even reached the lake. 255 previously known contaminant species of bacteria have been identified by researchers in the 2012 Russian ice samples since then, but they have also managed to identify at least one bacteria species from the sample that is presently unknown and has no matches in any international databases, which the team hopes is evidence for at least one unknown bacteria species that exists down there. The Russian team apparently drilled another second borehole down from the surface into Lake Vostok in 2015 that they claimed was cleaner and more properly sanitized, that resulted in another 1-liter sample of Lake Vostok's water being acquired. But the results on that water to date have never been published or reported on, so it's unclear what, if anything, they may have found in it. Most researchers involved with Lake Vostok expect that if life actually does exist down there, it'll be limited to simple life forms like bacteria, which might not really sound all that exciting or sexy, but it could carry with it significant implications for other simple life forms that might be existing elsewhere on other worlds in our own solar system, deep in the liquid oceans we also know exist beneath kilometers of frozen ice on some of the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, like Europa and Enceladus. But there might also just be the chance that there actually is more complex life existing down there in Lake Vostok than we might expect. In 2020, a study conducted by researchers Colby Gura and Scott Rogers of Lake Vostok's accretion ice rather than the liquid water within the lake itself revealed additional unknown bacteria species and, most fascinatingly of all, an rRNA sequence that was more than 97% similar to that of a species of rock codfish that is common along the Antarctic coastline, representing the first scientific report of an unknown fish species that could possibly be existing down within Lake Vostok. It would be incredible to one day see a sea drone with a camera and light attached to it get deployed down into Lake Vostok to see more of what's actually down there. Because, based on a similar event that happened just a few years ago in 2021, the results could indeed be wildly unexpected. In the final days of December in 2021, a team of scientists from New Zealand melted a small hole through a glacier in West Antarctica here at the Camb Ice Stream. The team knew that a large cavern of liquid water existed about 500 meters beneath the glacier's surface here, carved out over time by a small flowing river beneath the ice. But when the team actually lowered a camera down into the hole they carved, down into the liquid water-filled cavern below, what they saw shocked everybody involved. They actually saw animals, hundreds of them swimming around in the isolated cavern below. The team later identified these blurry orange blotches to be shrimp-like marine crustaceans called amphipods. And here in this cold, isolated cavern of water 500 meters beneath the ice, and a whopping 500 kilometers away from the nearest sunlight, locked in complete darkness, were hundreds of these more complex lifeforms absolutely thriving. Practically nobody expected to find that much life down here. And so, what implications does that 2021 discovery have for what unknown life may be existing within Lake Vostok? Or within any of the hundreds of other lakes locked beneath the Antarctic ice sheet that we haven't ever seen? So far, the area of the West Antarctic ice sheet spans across a vast area that is roughly the same size as Mexico, and yet, to this date, humanity has only managed to actually witness a fraction of the unknown world that exists beneath the ice here. A few dozen small boreholes dotted around the region that has exposed a disjointed area to us only about the size of a regulation basketball court. The world beyond that basketball court, in an area that's the size of Mexico, remains unobserved, unknown, and mysterious. And I deeply want to know more about it. And in addition to all the unknown life and geographic features that probably exist beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, there's also almost certainly a vast amount of undiscovered and completely untapped natural resources beneath the ice sheet that humanity will likely begin to deeply covet one day soon as well. For decades, it has been theorized that Antarctica is likely home to massive deposits of energy resources like oil and gas and coal, owing to the fact that for hundreds of millions of years in the past, the continent was not frozen and existed in a warmer part of the world that likely contained eons worth of animal and plant life. It was only around 35 million years ago that Antarctica drifted far enough south to begin acquiring its ice sheet. And for hundreds of millions of years before that, it never had any, allowing plenty of time for complex life to evolve and die and gradually transform into hydrocarbons like petroleum over the eons. But it wasn't until just a few months ago, before this video was published in May of 2024, that we had any idea of the actual potential extent of these Antarctic oil and gas reserves.